Can you hold the beauty so gently that she deigns to unfold in your hands? Can you kiss the night air so sweetly that she begins to blush? That the moon for a moment lifts her cheek and laughs at the dark. What helps you hold the beauty in this way? What opens you into the listening of the heart, the senses, the imagination? What are your preferred pathways into presence? For me, one of my favorites is poetry, and I'm looking forward to adventuring with you all for the next little while into the world of listening like a poet. And I want to invite you to forget everything you learned in English class. We're not going to analyze the poem to death, but I also want to invite you into your sensing body, into the listening of the heart and the belly, the breath and the feet on the earth. See, for me, poetry, the poet hat, is really a permission slip to listen to the world as if everything is vibrantly, achingly alive, full of wonder, magic, messages, mystery. And when I listen in this way, I notice things I would have otherwise missed. And I want to share a poem called Synesthesia, which is the word for when your sense wires get crossed. And sometimes I find myself listening so deeply that my sense wires get crossed outside of my personal body. And this one happened in an orchard in the moonlight. Moonlight in the orchard, and the arms of the fruit bearers bask in her grace. Letting go for the night of their hardened gnarling, they open stomata and cambrial throats. As a bright choral hum fills the Gravenstein air, with a praising so sweet it makes waves of her light, that then tickle the wildflowers wiggling below, as they waft their own loving on notes for the nose, and I find myself bending and offering breath from the moon in my vibrating nectar-filled chest, as we bask in the radiance of reflection. So where is the poem? Where did that poem happen? Was it in the orchard? Was it in my mind perceiving? Or perhaps somewhere in between? Was it on the page when I went home to translate the experience into words? Is the poem here right now still lingering between us? I want you to imagine with me a glass case full of dead butterflies. And if you've ever been to a natural history museum, you might know what I mean. You walk into a room, usually very brightly lit with white walls, and there's a case in front of you, and butterflies, one by one, meticulously pinned to the case, equidistant from each other, usually in some sort of rainbow order, so that we might peer over and scrutinize nature's design. And it's a beautiful thing, and I can get lost for hours doing that. And for me, this is a lot like the poem on the page. Now, imagine with me we're in some sort of Fantasia or Waking Life movie, and the butterflies resurrect and break free of the glass, and the walls of the museum fall away. And we find ourselves standing in a meadow with the warm sunlight on our skin and a cool breeze and a cloud of butterflies all around us. This is the poetry, the movement of love And for a poet, the poems are not just in the orchards and the meadows, they're everywhere. I like to hunt for poems in the backwoods of the city, where they hide inside the sidewalk signs, the misfit trees, my latte foam. They can even fly in a billboard sky or swim in the swamps of my inbox. And biography is fantastic camouflage. A name, a job, a place to go. They all help avert suspicious eyes as I wander around, ears perked for the sound of the poem's paws and clacking claws touching grass on the cracks in the pavement. Naomi Shihab Nye says that poems hide. What we have to do is live in a way that lets us find them. And another benefit of this listening like a poet is that it is an antidote to isolation, socially, from the natural world and from ourselves. David Whyte says in his poem, "Everything is waiting for you. Your great mistake is to act the drama as if you were alone. To feel abandoned is to deny the intimacy of your surroundings. Put down the weight of your aloneness and ease into the conversation. The kettle is singing even as it pours you a drink. The cooking pots have left their arrogant aloofness and seen the good in you at last. The birds and the creatures of the world are unutterably themselves. Everything is waiting for you." So I'm hearing a lot of So why don't we do this all the time? Why don't I listen like a poet all the time? And beyond the usual busy work, lots of things to do, I think more deeply it's because it takes courage. It takes courage to slow down enough to listen this deeply. And in this slowing down and listening, we are also opening ourselves to the tenderness of the feeling world, of how the feeling can impact us and percolate through like a drip coffee, waking us up, perhaps even changing us. Mary Oliver has this beautiful poem called Invitation. She says, "Oh, do you have a little while out of your busy and very important day for the goldfinches who have gathered in a field of thistle? They sing melodiously, not for your sake and not for mine, not for the sake of winning, but for sheer delight and gratitude. Believe us," they say, "it is a serious thing just to be alive on this fresh morning in this broken world." And the third courage required for listening like a poet is for many of us, I think, the hardest one. And that is the courage to, in the wake of the impact, when we feel that spark in the center of our being and an impulse to respond, to sing back in our own way, to not hold that impulse back for fear of what it might mean about who we are, for fear of being judged, and all the reasons we tend to clam up around our own expression. And I believe listening in this way is a transformative act. Einstein said that you can't solve a problem from the same consciousness that created it. Well, I'd venture to say that listening like a poet offers another way, a different kind of consciousness, and that the world desperately needs all of our listening. So I'd like to close with one of my own poems that offers a good example of how the practice of listening like a poet can serve to invite us back into this courageous place. And this story, I was commuting through San Francisco in my own busy work mode, and a blind man walked up to me at the corner of 16th and Mission. and he asked me to help him find Wells Fargo. And I looked up, and 3 of the 4 street corners were banks, and the 4th was a McDonald's. So I pointed him to the Wells Fargo, and he thanked me very simply and went on his way. And something about this moment touched me so deeply that it opened me back into the poem with a capital P for the rest of the day. And I went about noticing the life moving through the world. And I came home, my heart bubbling over with the joy of aliveness. And I did the only thing left to do, which was my way. I wrote it down. And so this is called Everyday Conversations. There is a grace that rests in the underneath of things. And it peeks out in the shine of the maple outside, in her autumn conversing with sun. And in the way the girl on the sidewalk laughs at the life growing wild through the pavement. And it's hidden within the blind man's question as he makes his way through these harsh urban streets to pause at the corner of his ATM where still he must ask me, which one? It's a sermon at 16th and Mission, as this man sees with senses most unknown to us. And it touches the heart with a humble reminder to never get too big for questions. And as we wind our way through the wilds of this world, with our great courage, big dreams, hard-earned skill, may we remember to pause and to ask and to listen and to laugh with the cracks in the pavement. Thank you.